الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واتبعوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا يعلمون الناس السحر وما أنزل على الملكين ببابل هاروت وماروت وقال الله تبارك وتعالى والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين اللهم لك الحمد كما أنت أهله فصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد كما أنت أهله وافعل بنا كما أنت أهله فإنك أهل التقوى وأهل المغفرة. In what I'm going to try to explain, there will be many things that you might not be able to grasp the full content of it, because it's something that perhaps we have never heard. It is something out of reach. And there will be many things that we will relate to because of what we see around us, what we experience, what we feel, although we don't know why we feel it. So the crux of this entire speech is regarding to how the world was, how the world is, how the world will be, how everything is moving. Previously, most likely I mentioned that when the whole world started, which we all know and we have heard many a time, it was all a contest. The first match was just after Adam alayhi salatu wassalam came down to earth. Just before the match, what happened in the heavens was that there was a person who we know as Iblis, Shaitan, Azazil, and he had the hope that he will be given the reins of the entire world. And to prove that he is worthy, he made his effort. He did a lot. Wherever he could make nafal, he did his nafal. Wherever he made ibadah, his point was to be shown to the Zat of Allah that if you have to give the reins over, I'm the one. And when his sights were set high now, and he could see no competition, at that time he gets the news that Allah has created what is called Adam. And Azazil, Iblis, now starts burning with jealousy. He visits Adam alayhi salam before he's even made, before the ruh, spirit is put in. He goes inside of Adam, outside of Adam, to see what is this Adam. That why has he taken away from me what was mine? And then we know the story that finally Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala asked for the sajda. And that was like the height of disgrace for Azazil. That up till now he was the king of the angels and now he had to make sajda, he would not do it. So Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala expels him and he takes an oath. The oath that he takes now is, I will prove that man is never ever worthy of being given what I was supposed to be given. So Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala tells him, I'll take the challenge. In this challenge, it was never meant that the whole world will be good. That from the beginning, Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala already announced that majority of the world will be bad. They will be your followers. But when majority, 90% is following you, there will be that 1%. Who no matter what you will do on them, they'll still manage to stand straight. And that is where the competition is. that selected group will prove to you that they are worthy of inheriting the earth, you are not worthy. Thereafter Shaitan asked that it's not fair that I have no power. So Allah Ta'ala asked him, what power you want? And he asked, whatever he could think of, he was given. He asked for his sound, he asked for his armies, he asked for the ability to blow in the hearts of people. A lot of things he asked and it was given, and he asked for a long life. And thereafter Adam alayhi salam comes and he is also given direction. That when this man is going to make an attack on you and your progeny, then one is the law. That you look at the law and walk straight. Together with that, Allah Ta'ala send down something else that will always break what Iblis will be doing from his side. So this entire thing, what we will call now, is called magic. Because magic is anything which happens and I don't understand it. You see, 100 years ago, if I had to speak and people in another room were hearing my voice, everyone will say magic. And today when I'm speaking, they will say just put up the volume. Now no one will say magic because we understood the system. As long as the system of the mic was not understood, this was called magic. And if someone could do it and he was the first in the world, you will say you are a magician. You are throwing your voice. You have sent it from here, it reaches Krugersdorp. If someone in the past could say, I can see what's happening far away, whether it's in a stadium, a match taking place in Syria, and he gives the news that just now what happened, there was a bomb. And people ask, how you found out? Say magic. And as soon as the system is understood, then no one will call it magic, now we will call it internet. So there was a system of magic in place from the beginning. And that magic was meant to make this competition more enjoyable. That it was going to give power to the shayateen to pull people. Because man will only get pulled if the person pulling has something which you don't have. If I can demonstrate a feat which you can never work out how it's working, you'll see the whole group will come. Crowds and crowds will come. Just to see me climbing up without a ladder. And when that system becomes famous among the people and everyone is climbing up without a ladder, then no one will come to see it. No longer called magic. So from the beginning of time, there was always the shayateen who were one ahead. That they could demonstrate certain things which the normal man couldn't pick up. And that was that extra power they had, that magnet. And then they would tell a person, if you want this power, you will have to do for me certain things. In this magic, Allah Ta'ala made one thing happen. That the jinn themselves, because they are jinn, they can't do the magic themselves. Because they jinn. They have been kept back. If they could practice themselves, there would be none of us left in the world. Because they do not like us living where they were supposed to be living. So every shaitan needs a man who can do the magic for him. But for that shaitan to be able to teach him, the man must be ready to break barriers. He will have to do certain things to invite the shaitan. So that the angels which are the barrier, all are forced to move out. And when they all move out, then a link between man and shaitan starts and magic starts. This man becomes the magician, he becomes the boss, he becomes the wizard. And he does those things which the rest of the world is left baffled. Magic. Then in this magic, Allah Ta'ala sent down at a certain time in history, in the land of Iraq, what we will call the height of magic. Regarding this, Allah Ta'ala says that when Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam came, that was years later, and Sulaiman alayhi salam had his mighty kingdom, then there was a time in his era where something happened because of which Sulaiman alayhi salam had to go out looking for a ring. So when he went out, somebody else sat on his throne. And that one who sat on his throne became so mighty in that few days, 40-day period, that everyone started regarding that person stronger than the King Sulaiman. Until when Sulaiman alayhi salam returned, that person who was sitting on the throne fled. Sulaiman alayhi salam had him caught, after that locked up, whatever happened. But in that 40 days, the person sitting on the throne did a very unique thing. He began teaching people magic. Because he himself was a jinn. So a jinn can't do the magic, he can only teach it. And he needs people to practice it. So whatever he thought, people wrote down, and those formulas were written. What he taught the people, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, at that time they taught the people as-sihr, normal magic, وَمَا أُنزِلَ عَلَى الْمَلَكَيْنِ بِبَابِلَ هَارُوتَ وَمَارُوتَ, and more than normal magic, a very special magic. This special magic was Allah Tabarak Ta'ala sent down two angels in the land of Iraq, what we know as the famous city of Babylon. Harut and Marut came down to make the competition more smarter. They came down with the formulas of the most unique magic that the world will ever see. But it was formulas. Allama Anwar Shah Kashmiri Rahimullah says what it was the names of Allah and how to use each name. And if you use the name in a certain manner, on a certain day, in a certain way, then suddenly you got magic. So they came down with it. These two angels, years before Sulaiman alayhi salam. And they began teaching people, because to make the imtihan bigger. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says they would not teach a single soul this magic, except first they would give him a bayan. They would tell him, what we are going to teach you is the most strongest power the world has ever and will ever see. وَمَا يُعَلِّمَانِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ حَتَّى يَقُولَا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ فِتْنَةً. They would say, remember, this is a test. فَلَا تَكْفُرْ. If you're going to learn the seer, make sure you don't lose your deen. Thereafter, فَيَتَعَلَّمُونَ مِنْهُمَا مَا يُفَرِّقُونَ بِهِ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَزَوْجِهِ. People began learning. One example of what they would learn would be something with which a husband and wife who were so close, you could just do one thing and suddenly they break off. And now the husband can't see the wife, wife can't see the husband. What we will say, that break the heart. But to be able to break someone's heart is no easy thing. And that was only one example. How many others there were? وَمَا هُمْ بِضَارِّينَ بِهِ مِنْ أَحَدٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. Allah Ta'ala immediately says, but remember, the one who sent the magic was Allah himself. And Allah only allows it to have its effect. But He sent it to make the imtihan bigger. Thereafter they would tell the people that if you're going to use it for good. Don't use it for evil. But now Allah Ta'ala says that whoever learned this magic, he found it so powerful that he would never use it for good. He would always use it for his own interest. He would become the tyrant of the time, the king of the time. He would suck the blood of people. وَلَقَدْ عَلِمُوا لَمَنِ اشْتَرَاهُ مَا لَهُ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنْ خَلَاقٍ. Whoever would purchase this knowledge would know one thing, that I am going to waste my year after because of it. But because of the power in that magic, the man would say, to hell with Jannah. I got it here. وَلَبِئْسَ مَا شَرَوْا بِهِ أَنفُسَهُمْ لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. If only man understood that they were not purchasing something good. وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمْ آمَنُوا وَاتَّقَوْا. If only they had brought iman and abstained. لَمَثُوبَةٌ مِّنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ خَيْرٌ. What Allah was going to give in the year after was much better. لَوْ كَانُوا يَعْلَمُونَ. If only man understood. But man would never understand. So this magic became a big thing. Now in the time of Sulaiman alayhi salam, when that jinn had the chance to teach the magic that he had learned years before in the lands of Babylon. And when the Bani Israel was sent away in exile, they also went to Iraq. And while they were in exile for that 100 years, they also learned little, whatever they could learn, because it was powerful. And now when the jinn taught it, people began recording. After recording the formula, only one more thing is needed now. And that is called understanding the formula and bringing it into reality. That you got the thing written, how to do it. But how to understand that is not a simple thing. The angels came and they made ta'aleem. They said, this is Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 4. So people wrote it, but the chance to start practicing never came because Sulaiman alayhi salam returned. When Sulaiman alayhi salam returned, the jinn fled, he was caught, he was brought, he was tied up. In my understanding, that jinn is the jinn who we know today as Dajjal. Or whatever, Sulaiman alayhi salam had him. Then Sulaiman alayhi salam said an investigation around his entire empire. That whoever got anything written of magic, bring it to me. So the jinn was spread in all directions. And whoever had written any formula, The jinn's job was to find it and bring it. In the formulas, there was the power of the entire world. Sulaiman alayhi salam understood if anyone gets his hands on this, there will be chaos in the world. So he has it buried and surrounded with his own magic also. Because of his own magic, it's mentioned that even a jinn would go towards that place where it was buried, he would burn. So there was no way to even go. The only person who could go to that magic was man himself. And man himself, where is he going to look for something that Sulaiman alayhi salam had buried where no one ever knew where it was buried? And a jinn was locked away one place and life carried on. Allah Ta'ala speaks that in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whatever magic had reached the Jews was what were people remembered in that era. They had lost all their papers, but whatever they remembered, they would teach their child. Like how we teach Hifz of Quran. Just that teaching was so strong that Kaaba Ahbar would say that I know certain Jews, that because I accepted Islam, they got a certain formula which they can use on me. So powerful it is that they can change me into a donkey. He says, to protect myself, I make sure I read one dua every day, because I know it can hit me. They have made a link with me. Powerful magic. But they never had all the formulas. This was just what went by mouth. But it was so powerful that Allah Ta'ala says, when Quran came to them, then they were ready to say, we don't want this. And when they were asked, what do you all want? So they would say, the knowledge of Harut and Marut is much more powerful than this. So they would push it one side. But what was that power? So the world would never know. They would know it. They would call it the hidden knowledge, the knowledge of the Torah, what the world would call magic. And we would say that he's a jadugar, a sorcerer. And like how we all nowadays, we only know magic in its confined sense. That magic means he made jadoo. Small magic. But this was no small magic. Allah Ta'ala revealed this as the final power to make the imtihan grow now. Now this imtihan was going to be a unique imtihan. So Shaitan had his time in every era to prove that he can wipe out all the people of Iman. But we all know how Quran explains, in every era a Nabi came and he had his selected people. And then that group was destroyed and that person was successful and he showed Shaitan, you lost. And then the next era. And Allah Ta'ala's desire was a time must come, one era, where whatever power the world can bring will be put in the hands of Shaitan. Any power you want. Because this is your last chance, what you will say, the finals. That this is the final, you lost every match already. Now in the final match, I will give you whatever power you want. And destroy the selected group which I have. That selected group became us. Which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came, first thing he said, me and Qiyamah are like this now, meaning this is the final. And then he explained in the final power will come out, which is called the power of Dajjal. It will open up, the biggest power. That is to be the biggest help for Shaitan to do what he wants to do. And thereafter Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never explained how it will happen. But he just explained certain signs of this magic. That when you will see the magic of this man, it will look like this, it will look like that, it will look like that. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away and life carried on. And Islam ruled, and there was always problems in the Muslim world, which we spoke about previously. The issue of Karbala came from the lands of Iraq, whatever happened. Until a time came where the Islamic Khilafat was destroyed. When this Khilafat was destroyed, the world knew suddenly the whole world went under a change. Never before had the Muslims found no Khalifa. About 300 years before the destruction of the Khilafat, something happened in the world. That is what the world knows as the Crusades. What happened in the Crusades, there was a group of Jews who suddenly got a desire that some way or the other we have to attack Aksa. But the Jews will never fight. So they made an effort about 100 years effort to instigate Christians. But now you can't instigate a Christian, because a Jew and a Christian are the worst of enemies. Because according to the Christian, the Jew killed my God. Now if someone kills your father, and tomorrow he comes up to you and says, sorry about what I did, but just do some work for me, you will never do it. And if someone kills your God, and thereafter you tell him, I need you to go fight wars for me, he'll never do it. So a 100-year effort took place on the church, that every main leader of the church, what is called the Pope, had to be a hypocrite in the church. Until finally when the main popes were on top, then they passed the first verdict that we have forgiven the Jews. That they killed our God, but never mind. God said always forgive, let's forgive them. So right throughout they were forgiven. Up till now the Jews and the Christians could never see eye to eye. When Umar radiallahu anh took over Aksa, the Christians gave it over. They gave it to the Muslims on one condition, don't ever let a Jew stay here. They hated the Jew. But now a blanket ruling, that he killed God, never mind. The second thing that happened is the Pope now said that, the land of Aksa is our land. So the Crusades started. Why the Christians went to Aksa, they never knew. They just knew it's the holy land, there's so much virtue, we must take it. And a war took place. When that war was done, and we all know how they entered the lands of Aksa, and Aksa was taken, with them another group entered. This group was called the Knight Templars. This group was a group that said, we don't want anything to do with the spoils of war. We don't want anything to do with the power of the land. We just want to make i'tikaf in the masjid. Because this is holy land. So they were told, no problem. And they chose a spot in Aksa, which was reserved for their worship. No one must interfere with them. What they carried on doing after that was never known. Until a time came where people told the king that these people in that spot are committing, one is satanic acts, they are worshipping like a fire, and number two, they are committing the worst, what we will call like sexual acts, where man to man. So the king himself could not accept that in the holy land, so he had them called. And this has been documented. When he had them called, and they were executed, after they agreed, admitted what they were doing. Before the execution, one person however said that you can kill us, but what we were sent for, that has already gone to Europe. What we were sent for has already gone. So nobody knew what they were sent for. The most that would be happen is when they would go into this people's place where they were residing, they would find they used to dig. They were digging. So either they found maybe a treasure, they found gold, they found silver, so what? Go on. Don't worry about it. But these people were sent to find what Sulaiman alayhi salam had buried. This was called the scrolls of power, magic. But because nothing happened after that, 100 years, 200 years, 250, 300 years plus, nothing happened. So when nothing happens, no one bothers. What if they found something? Who cares? About 250 to 300 years later, the first breakthrough of these scrolls took place. The first understanding of the formula. When that thing took place, the first understanding, they formulated it in a book called the Laws of Kabbalah. The Laws of Kabbalah, it came out that this is a revealed word. What Allah Ta'ala says, Ma unzila, a revealed word. The Laws of Kabbalah. But they never explained to the world what is Kabbalah. So what we will think Kabbalah is Madonna. Kabbalah is maybe this Justin. These are Kabbalah, the Kabbalists. So nothing big, they'll just make bear and everyone will go wild. So nobody really bothered. But they took out that law, we have formulated the laws of Kabbalah, and nothing. At that time, Islam was the power of the time. At the time, 70 years after the Muslims had taken over the land called Constantinople. Constantinople is what we say present-day Turkey. This was the strongest fort of the Christian world. From the time of Sahaba, about 7 attempts were made to take it. They could never get it, because it was protected. Whoever goes to Turkey will understand. You could not get this land. But then finally a man came by the name of Muhammad Fatih. And he got such power under him, that they managed to break through and they took over Turkey. When they took over Turkey, this was like the backbone of Christianity, and Christianity is supposed to fall to the ground. We're finished now. We have taken over the White House. Now there's no power left. And everything's supposed to fall. And the whole world understood the superpower of the time is now Muslims. And 70 years later,
the book came out that the laws of Kabbalah have now been formulated. So nothing. Muslims are the power of the world. Suddenly the world went through a change. That's the change we're talking about. It was called the change of technology. It became first a steel age, industrial age, scientific age, technological age, all ages. And the people who were ahead in this age were those people who claimed to have got the law of Kabbalah. Suddenly a small country like the land of London, small, everyone knows who will go. They were able to send soldiers around the world and grab the entire world. No one could fight. Suddenly a radio was being made, where we could send our voice far away. And everyone's amazed, how you do it? Magic? No, not magic, it's called a radio. And then a time came where we could send, I could hear your voice. Magic? No, not magic, it's called a telephone. And then a gun came out, that you'll have many people with bow and arrow, and you take one person with his boof, and everyone dead. You say magic? Not magic, it's called a gun. And the name magic never hit now. But how come it was magic is because no one knew who was the first person starting the thing. Up till today you ask someone who's behind the internet. No one knows. The most you can do is repeat and work on their module. But try to better it in the world of arms. Who got the wealth of the world? The Arabs. But up till today, why can't they get one gun which is better than the present gun? Why do they always have to order new stuff? Why can't they make it? Because the one but at the beginning is called magic. And if you haven't got the formula, you can't do it. So suddenly the world fell into magic. What came out? Drugs came out. The basis of drugs were the laws of Harut and Marut. That whether it's certain tablets, you go on wild. You will fly in the sky, you will move through the orbit, you will see things, you will be amazed. What does Harut and Marut formula? The ingredient came out. An ingredient called magic. That I will put this one ingredient in something called Coke. And the whole world for years and years will carry on drinking it, they'll never become tired. The child in Africa, the child in India, the child in Arabia, where everyone's taste buds are always different. You give someone something, you say too mild or too strong. You'll never find one curry that the whole world will eat. But you take one black Coke, and the man says, I can't do without my Coke. One ingredient that could pull the world, the basis of it was magic. And then the guns and the atoms and the bombs and everything that started coming out at the beginning, there had to be a certain thing called magic. But the world would never call it magic, we would call it science. And in the science now, Shaitan was given his final power. In this power, what he could do was whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when Dajjal will come, he will come with the power that a 10 animal will be made fat. So what will make it? Magic will make it. That you will give it one injection and suddenly your cow suddenly goes, woof, and he's giving 20 kilos extra meat. And milk which was coming out 10 liters, now is coming out 15 liters. The cow tries to hold it, it just comes. Your fruits are bigger. Your animals are bigger. Your chickens are bigger. And then sicknesses being created. Cancer, AIDS, and the whole world in one lab is controlling the world. Then there will be something called propaganda, the news, the television, the internet, and what is going to come, only Allah knows. This was all now put in the hands of Shaitan. That your final attack on the world, make it now. This is the magic of the world. You got it? That magic that was sent down right at the beginning has now come in the form what they will call Kabbalah. What we will call the knowledge of Harut and Marut. And what the Hadith calls the power of Dajjal. And this is what we are living through. That is magic on the one side. Thereafter Allah Tabaruk Ta'ala made a intizam, special intizam. That where magic will be put in the hands of the shayateen, where there will be raves, there will be clubs, there will be drugs, there will be filth, there will be things that everyone has to get. You can't stay out of it. It will be all around you. But how will that selected group still remain powerful? Because now there's no way you can say you'll stand in the ring. Now the boxer has been given the power of the world. Yet you will find a 10 man still standing. He's getting one box. He bounces, he comes back again. Look at the ummah. What power they have. They got no wealth. Really, the wealth is in the hands of the corrupt leaders. The ummah got no wealth. Try to run a madrasa, you have to go and beg. Tell people, please support the madrasa, there's no money coming. The ummah got no wealth. The ummah got no arms. The ummah got no power over technology. The ummah got no power over science, over schools, over the mind, over the ears, no power. So the ummah is a thin ummah. And evil is fat and strong. And the law is one punch and there's no ummah left. But every time that punch was given, Allah Ta'ala suddenly made the ummah spring back. On what basis? So Allah Ta'ala sends down His own magic in the world now. The magic of shaitan is called madiyat. Magic. Sihr, haram. And the magic of the Zat of Allah, one of the magics which we are going to discuss now is called tajalli. This tajalli Allah Ta'ala sends now, so that this 10 Muslim, he remains immune to whatever punch is being given. This tajalli now, which we said in this time, for 1 hour we would speak about today 2 places and next week 2 places. Allah Ta'ala in the beginning of the creation, because He knew the match has to take place. So the first focus that Allah Ta'ala made on the world was water. On water was the arsh of Allah. Thereafter Allah Ta'ala puts focus. Focus means, like what I say, I got an account and I want to send money to you. So there are 2 ways to give you money. One is to call you and put it in your hand. And one is if I can't for some reason connect with you, then I send it through an account. If it comes through the account, you receive the same money. And you will even say, I got it from your hand. The Zat of Allah to connect with man like this is impossible. It is beyond the power of man, it is beyond the shan of the Zat of Allah. But Allah Ta'ala wanted man to enjoy from His magic also. So the first focus that took place is on the place what we know in the world as Kaaba. Kaaba comes from the word Ki'ab. Ki'ab is this ankle, because it sticks out. The world was water and a focus began. This focus to understand, regard it as a waterfall. That Allah Ta'ala's now account started. And a waterfall started falling on the spot known as Kaaba. As this thing was falling, what was going through it? The first thing that was going through it was the ingredients for creation of man. So whatever man needed for his creation, skin, eyes, ears, the ability for these things to work, cells, then what you will say is in the body, this ingredient is there, that ingredient is there, every ingredient, and then qualities. One person will be brown, one person will be darker, one person will be lighter, one will be taller, one will be shorter, one will be braver, one will be weaker, ingredients. And this ingredients carried on falling for a period of 1,000 years. But the beauty of that connection was such that the angels who were able to notice that waterfall, they would make tawaf around it. And for a period of 1,000 years when there was no man in the world, it was just angels circling, because it was beautiful. But this was divine magic, tajalli. Thereafter when it was ready now and all the ingredients were what is called Kaaba, then Allah Ta'ala now said spread. And from the Kaaba, land started going out. And the earth, how we know it, was now formed. Water was pushed how much Allah wanted, and land was made. After land was made, Jibreel alayhi salam was told from every land, he will select now the sand which will be needed for mine, for yours, for everyone's being. So every person now never get his creation from the Kaaba. You got it from somewhere, but your link is with the Kaaba. It's spread out from there. Whatever came in your grasp of sand, because you made of sand, if beauty came in yours, extra beauty, 55%, then suddenly you become a very handsome person. If eloquence came in your share, you can speak very well. If power came, bravery came, whatever came, that's you. That is why it's mentioned your temperament you can't change, because you made of that sand. You can't change your color, and you can't change your tabiyat, your nature, because that's what you were made for. So that was creation. It was a long thing, but it doesn't really matter with us. We all know we are created. After creation, Allah Ta'ala put focus on the spot now. This spot was known as Kaaba, the beginning of the creation, but now a second focus started. In this focus, the magic began falling, what we will call the tajalli of the Zat of Allah, of His beauty. Because there was going to be an attraction of the shayateen, come to me, come to me. Look at how pretty I am, look at how wonderful I am, look at how powerful I am. And there had to be another beauty also. Because when man will have only one beauty in front of him, he's never going to go to anything else. So Allah Ta'ala sent down His beauty. If man had to be able to see Allah's beauty directly, then there will be no imtihan for anyone. Every kafir on the day of Qiyamah will witness the beauty of the shan of Allah. Everyone will fall into sajda. That power is too powerful. But for the imtihan to stay, the beauty was going to be now covered and put in matter. So Allah Ta'ala starts sending down beauty, which man cannot see, and it falls. Adam alayhi salam is sent to mark the spot. The angels show him that on this spot the beauty of your Allah is falling. Every Nabi that would come would look at that spot, would see nothing but would see everything. To understand nothing but everything, ask anyone who went to the Baytullah, the Kaaba, that when you look at the Kaaba, what are you seeing? You are so amazed at something, but you don't know what you are amazed at. You know it's not the cloth, because that same cloth, if you buy it, you go to the people making the cloth. You say, please give me a piece. You put it in your house. And then you tell everyone, hey, I got Kaaba, may come to my house. People will come and say, Mubarak and gone. No one will look, and just carry on looking. And when the time comes when he returns, people will tell him, how was the Umrah? He say, very expensive this year, man. And next year he's paying double that amount. But he's going. He doesn't know why he's going. What magic is pulling him? Where the magic of Coke pulls that Coke lover, we all know. He can't do without his Coke. There is a magic falling on the Baytullah. That man who starts going can't do without it. Which Allah Ta'ala said to the Baytullah, you will become such one day, that when a bird leaves its nest, knowing its baby is sitting in, to get food, that desire of the mother to return as soon as possible, that will one day be put in certain people. They will just leave you, go back in their world and say, when is the next trip? The jalli of beauty started falling. The demands of this beauty falling on the Baytullah was one. That what we call the demands of beauty. As it fell on the Baytullah, this tajalli, this magic would start spreading in the world called Hijaz, the land of Makkah. And as it would spread, whatever was the demand of beauty would be found in the land. So as it hit the Kaaba, what happened? A demand of beauty is, if there's a beautiful girl in a house, and you want someone to come and see your daughter, she is very beautiful, and that young boy is coming for the proposal, you will do one thing. You will make sure that your other daughter doesn't go in front. Because if your other daughter goes in front, even if her beauty is not as much as this one, the boy will still be confused. Now when he comes there, you say, Mommy, who you think is better, the big one or the small one? So Allah Ta'ala, to make man's attention only on his beauty, the demand of beauty was that there must be no other scene of beauty around it. So what happened? The entire land of Hijaz became beautyless. It became mountainous. All grass, not allowed. Mountains, lot. Water, not much. Heat, lot. Desert. When it gets cold, very cold. When it gets hot, very hot. And the temperament of the people living there also harsh. Because if you want to prove love, and you're going to see that girl, then when that father wants to find out if the boy is really worthy of my daughter, what he does? The father won't go to the boy's house and say, you know me, I'm a millionaire. Why don't you take my daughter? He'll never do that. He will act hard with that boy. He will give him a funny face, ugly face, like you're not wanted here. Then if that boy still goes back and says, Mommy, forget the father-in-law. I like the girl. No matter what I'm going, the father-in-law will say, right, this is the boy. Allah Ta'ala made the entire land of Hijaz such that whoever will come to it will have to prove his love. So nothing enjoyable has been put there. You can't go for picnics in the land of Hijaz. You can't ever expect good treatment. You will land at any airport in the world, they tell you welcome, welcome. You will land at Jeddah, they tell you not welcome. So, because you might get angry, but the temperament of the Baytullah was such that your love has to be proven. Make the journey, come. You will go through heat. Your lovely clothes, now the law is take it out. Now you will have to put on an ihram. Now that ihram, as you're walking, your legs are now burning. It's itching, it's scratching. Now we have only 5 days ihram. In the past where people for 1 month, 2 months would be in the ihram. You can understand the condition, they want to take a bath. They want soap, no soap allowed. There's things in their hair, there's things in their body is smelling. Prove your love. That love has to be proved. In the land of Hijaz, Makkah Mukarramah, even if America puts up the most beautiful hotel, and they say right now no one will go to the Baytullah. You will see people will tell you, I booked in the most expensive hotel. And the people will tell you, hey, the shopping is too much. So now you think because people are shopping, the haram will be empty. And you just walk in the haram and you say, if so many people are shopping, double the people are making the tawaf. No matter what attraction is put, that Kaaba will just carry on showing, I'll beat you, oh shopping centers. You can carry on bigger, I'll get bigger. You become more expensive, I'll call more people. You will say the crowds are too big, I will show you my Zamzam will become more. Magic in that land. And the magic is the magic of Allah's tajalli of beauty. When you will come in front of the Baytullah, you don't know you're seeing it, but what's happening? It's like how when you go in that rave club, you get attracted. And you get knocked with sihr, black magic. That black magic knocks your mind, you go on zombie. Now when you go home, you can't sleep. You are wrecked. You can't do without it. The magic on the Baytullah is such that it doesn't make anyone different, but it does everything. The only reason why we are still surviving as believers in this land of filthy magic is because every time you present yourself in front of the house of Allah, a certain current hits you, which goes head to throat through your body. And whatever filth it finds, it cuts it in half. And suddenly when you return from your umrah, Rasulullah ﷺ said, born again. That he's gone through his operation. That is why man is surviving on Islam, otherwise there's no Islam left. The power of evil is too strong at the moment. Now when a man comes into the Baytullah, he has made the journey of love. As soon as your eye falls on the haram, what's the first thing that happens? Normally you will see tears will start coming down. You will never know why. You will just be amazed that this is like no picture I ever saw. I saw the Kaaba on TV. I saw it on my pictures. A lot of people say, I got Islamic TV so I can see haram. So one person, nowadays because of ITV, people are not shy. In the past people would be shy. If a Molana comes to the house, they would put parda on the TV. They would say, no, it's my fish. But nowadays he puts it on. And if it's an uncle, we feel hard to tell him that, I don't watch. So he put it on, he said, see, Kaaba. That's why I got it. So at that time my son was what, so I told him one thing, he can show the Kaaba on TV, but the asal of the Kaaba is not the picture. It is that divine beauty that's falling, which will never come through the TV. So you can look at it on ITV 1,000 times, you will never get one thing of the Kaaba. You will have to be there, and as the gaze falls, a connection is hit. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained that this beauty of Allah tajalli is so strong, that if it had to fall on man himself, man would burn. So Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala made it fall on matter. If it had to fall on the matter of this world, that matter would crack. So Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala had 2 stones sent down from Jannah. One is known as the Hajar-e-Aswad, which you all know. One is called the Rukn Yamani, at that spot a stone. And on the 2 stones, Allah's divine beauty falls, magic. And that divine Jannati stone grabs that magic. And it absorbs it, and then it pushes it through the Kaaba, and the Kaaba sends it out. When a person starts his tawaf, the first thing he will do is, he will go to the Hajar-e-Aswad as close as possible. If he can put his hands on the Hajar-e-Aswad, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if your hand touches the Hajar al-Aswad, then understand that you have put your hand on the hand of Allah. Because the closest connection with the account of Allah is the Hajar al-Aswad, where it is hitting directly. And your hand touched it. And if you can't get your hand on it, he said just put your hand here. Because there's a current running through it. And if you just face it with the right intention, it's like you put your button and you press and your gate started opening. As you put your hand there, a current will go with you. You will never feel it. But it will definitely go through every single person. Although you don't know. Thereafter you start going. You started the game. The current started. As you are going around the house of Allah, you don't know why you're going. Your own son will tell you, Daddy, what are we doing? Every day you go to shop, you say, I'm making money, making money. And the small child, he wants to play chasing. You say, I've got no time for chasing. But now you're just making chasing. 1, 2, the child will tell you, Daddy, what are we doing? You don't know yourself what you're doing. You say, just carry on, but carry on. You have finished your 1. Umrah is over, you're tired now. The first thing the man will say, hey, let's rest so we can go back for tawaf. What are you going around and around? You yourself don't know what is it, but you're walking through divine magic. As it falls on the Baytullah, it spreads. The splashes now start hitting. The people of Tawaf, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that every day means every now and then, Allah Tabarakullah sends another splash of a waterfall. 100 mercies fall on the house of Allah. And that mercy then splashes. It hits the people making Tawaf, they get so much of it. It hits the people who are tired of Tawaf, they're just sitting and looking at the Baytullah. It hits the person who's near there reading, saying Allahu Akbar, performing Salah, and everyone is just in divine magic. Going round and round and round. And thereafter, the person's ihram is out. He will go rest, he will come back. A time will come now, your umrah is over now. The divine magic that hits the Baytullah made Makkah. That's why we'll spend hundreds and thousands to get there. As it hit, it affected the land. So anyone who's an alim will know that the land of Makkah is called Haram. We all know it, that's why we can't go without ihram. There's laws. You can't hunt the animals there, because they have been hit with the divine beauty of Allah. You can't just pick up any flower there. It has been hit with divine beauty. Everything has become sacred. There's a small haram, there's the bigger haram. The splashes are hitting. But now a time comes where you have to leave the house of Allah. Now you have to go back home. Now when you are coming home, or maybe you never had the money to go there. So there's a problem that when this magic has been sent to ensure man doesn't fall in the power of shaitan, what will happen to that person who hasn't got the money to go to Baytullah? So Allah Tabarakullah set up system number 2. System number 2 is that those people who go to that house, even it can be the guy who's what you call rubbish. Rubbish went for Hajj. He himself knows his rubbish, everyone knows his rubbish. And now rubbish returns from Hajj. Immediately everyone knows, go and visit rubbish. Now when you go to visit rubbish, in your life you never say, hey rubbish, make dua for me. But suddenly now the hadith said when he returns, go to him. Put your hands in his hands. Why must your hand touch his hand? Because he doesn't himself know it, but divine beauty is flowing in his body. As his hand touches your hand, you also don't know it. You will just say, lovely itar you got. But it goes. Thereafter he will give you some zamzam from the well which was at the closest spot to the Baytullah, which received divine beauty every single second. And he will tell you, drink this. As you drink it, divine beauty will go through you. Your love of Allah will increase every time your ta'alluq with the house of Allah is created. You, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, hug that person. Because when you hug and your heart is able to touch his heart, beauty will move through. And now it's not every day, and then Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no matter who he is, ask him to make dua of maghfirat for you. Because in his body something is going which is not in your body. He has eaten from divine power. He is a man living in magic at the moment. So take from his magic. But then there's the thing that every day someone doesn't return. It's not every day someone has gone for Umrah. Nowadays we're finding it. In the past it wasn't. So the third system was put. That how to bring magic within you. So Allah Tabarak Ta'ala set up a system called Salah. And that system was from the beginning right till the end. That no matter where you are in the world, if you can just put your radio on the correct frequency, then the splash that hits on the Baytullah will fly from the Baytullah to wherever you are. You are sitting far away, you put it on and you got Radio Islam, as though they are in your house. When a man says Allahu Akbar and he faces the house of Allah, then that day is called frequency catching. He has started a ta'alluq connection with the house of Allah as though he is standing right here. And during his namaz, he doesn't know what's happening. He's thinking more of cricket. Whatever he's thinking about. But because that connection is there, if the radio is on in your house, and you don't even know what's being said, but the sound is coming. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala, whoever says Allahu Akbar, no matter how little concentration he comes with in the salah, at the end of the salah he says, I never concentrated. But the power falling on the house of Allah goes right through his body. And when he ends his salah, he'll say, got nothing from the salah. But that nothing from the salah is what is saving us today from becoming murtad. The power around us is so powerful. But this one 10 ummati is standing, and no matter what punch is hitting him, he comes back again. As though he was never punched. Because power is just moving through our body. So that in a nutshell is the power of Makkah Mukarramah. You can say much more about it, but so much because we experience it. This is something we all know. So the next time you go to that house of Allah, up till now you went, you drank that magic. The only thing you never saw the glass coming to. Now when you drink it, just see that glass coming and you will put you in a difference. Because a man who's in the hospital, he also gets vitamins. But he's unconscious. So it goes through his body, but he doesn't know it when. And another person is given a beautiful dish. He's awake, he's conscious, hey, very tasty. And he also gets the vitamins. He enjoys it, he doesn't enjoy, but both benefit. This magic is such whether you know it's hitting you or you don't know, it's going to go through you. So that is one. Thereafter the second, which we will end up now in about 5-10 minutes. 40 years after, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala's first focus started on the Baytullah. And the law of magic started. Divine. The beauty of your Creator. See it. And when you look at it, you will become oblivious of the beauty of the world. No matter how strong it is. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, one narration, it comes that he said that the magic of Harut and Marut, so strong, that he said this dunya, the world, its beauty is even stronger. Because this world is an attraction. Everyone is pulled towards it, even if there is no magic. Just the world itself. And now with all the magic, so beauty was set up. 40 years later, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala started a second focus. This focus was the magic now of power. Because where Allah Tabarak Ta'ala has to be loved, and Allah is the lover and beloved, and the land of Makkah Mukarramah was made a land of love. That besides Allah there is nothing here. I am just a lover. I don't worry of my food, I don't worry of my drink, I don't worry of my clothing, I don't worry where I stay, it's just love, in and out, in and out. 40 years later, a second focus started, and divine tajalli magic started falling. The spot chosen for the second focus was going to be what we now is called Masjidul Aksa. 40-year difference, and in that second waterfall started the magic of power. That whoever will see that land will understand the power of the Creator. Now that part we will not understand now. The reason is because we are not able to anymore see Aksa, how Aksa is supposed to be seen. How Aksa is supposed to be seen, Aksa became the court of the divine king. Where Makkah Mukarramah was going to become the court of the beloved. And everything around it ugly, not smart. To prove that you really love me, Aksa was going to become the court of a mighty king. So as divine power started falling, power, awe, magnificence, it began falling. So again a stone of Jannah had to be brought. And that stone was sent, which we nowadays know as the dome of the rock. That rock. That rock is a divine rock. And it began pulling in divine power. So much power, that whoever now wanted to rule the world, he understood, I have to sit close to this power. As long as I am sitting here, the world will be under my power. So the greatest king of all times came, that was Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam. Allah's Nabi, a normal Nabi, where will he go? He will say, I'll go to Makkah Mukarramah to establish my empire. But Sulaiman alayhi salam was told that the land of Makkah is for your ta'alluq with your creator, love. But for rule and power, he was directed to the land of Aksa. Sulaiman alayhi salam comes and he is shown the spot where Allah's divine tajalli, Dawood alayhi salam. And the land starts being built. This is the power of Allah. Dawood alayhi salam rules the Bani Israel and the world practically. Sulaiman alayhi salam takes over, he becomes grand ruler. The power of Sulaiman alayhi salam, no one can even think of hitting. As that tajalli would fall on the land of Aksa, how beauty fell on the Kaaba and it made the land of Makkah Mukarramah a dry land. Not smart, to prove love. Here because power was falling off a king, the land around Aksa became the court of a king. And the court of a king is lush, green, fertile. So it became called Al-Ardul Muqaddasa. The most beautiful lands in the world, the most fertile lands, the most blessed lands, because it's the court of your king. When you will come there and you will see divine power, and the man standing there says, I am the Khalifa of Allah on the earth. Look at this power. So the land of Aksa and the surrounding lands, what we will call Sham, which nowadays will be Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, which is the closest. This was all the land which was surrounding the seat of power. Sulaiman alayhi salam then ruled, and life carried on. Wherever evil forces wanted to rule the world, their first mind also was on the land of Aksa. When the Christians were the rulers of half the world, they had a choice that you can either rule from Constantinople, which we call present-day Turkey, because it had the mightiest fort in the world. But Caesar at that time was not interested in going there. His eyes was on the land of Aksa. Because if you can get Aksa, Damascus and the surrounding lands, then your army becomes the army of the time. Because in that land there is certain power that will move through your every soldier. This became the land of power. Sahaba radiallahu anh then in the time of Umar radiallahu anh conquered. After that there is no talk ever that any force will ever be able to get it back. I'd say what we know nowadays, what's happening today. The land of Aksa was made as the land of power. And if evil forces manage to one day settle in the land of Aksa, where they are all around, right at the door, if they just manage to move into Aksa, and they manage to do their magic, then you will suddenly see them becoming the kings of the entire world. So Allah Ta'ala, to ensure that nothing happened, He put up a system. And that system is called divine defense. Where He explained that Makkah Mukarramah, there is a defense force around it. Like what America says, we got our shield. So they got their shield that if you send a missile from outside, it will stop. It won't go through. Unless it's 911. Otherwise, normally it's supposed to stop. That day the shield just, battery ran short, whatever happened. They got their shield. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Allah Pak put a shield around Baytullah, Kaaba, Makkah Mukarramah. That when the forces of the Dajjal will be trying to enter, every time they enter, we all enter. You can enter even if you are non-Muslim, just say I'm a Muslim, salam, and you're gone. There's no shield that knocks us. We got no guns, but we go through it like nothing. And you might say, I got a visa. Ask your friends, how many people go without visa also? Somehow or the other you can get through. But suddenly a man with the intention to take over comes there. An army comes with the weapons of the world. He doesn't need visa. There's no one who will stand up against him. He got his army tanks. But as he comes there, a divine shield of angels will turn his whole tank. That you will not be allowed. This is not for you. A time will finally come where one army will have that complete himmat to go for it. They will forget every barrier. They will say, if someone has to enter, we can enter. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the day that army leaves, and it starts its march towards Makkah, then the earth will open up and the entire army will be swallowed. A divine barrier. They'll never take the chance, because somehow or the other they will be pushed back. And they know it, although we don't know it. But if you ask anyone why Makkah they have never hit, then sometimes he might say because they're scared of the Muslims. But they are never scared of the Muslims. That's the last thing they are scared of. Otherwise you could see a land of Makkah where you enter, and you have to ask a Jew, can I get visa? And now you come to the Kaaba, and standing at the Kaaba is a Jew. And he says, pay me 5 rand, then you can make tawaf. They would do it. The wealth of the Muslim world is there. The biggest threat is there. They know that when Hazrat Mahdi's bay'at will take place, it will take place there. The place to have all your armies is there at the Kaaba. But what is preventing them that you can't just come in? You will just stay on the borders. You can't come. So we might say it is that they're scared of the Muslims. Thereafter the second shield Allah Ta'ala put. That Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said he put it around the land of Aksa. Masjid-e-Aqsa. That no matter what power they come, every time they try to enter the masjid and take over, something makes them decide that no, let's just go back. You might say that the Jews are ruling. The Jews are not ruling. Because rule means, example, this masjid. If someone says, I'm the ruler of this masjid, it means he's inside this masjid. He's not outside. If you go to Aksa, you will see surrounding Aksa are soldiers on all sides. Tanks on all sides. Power on all sides. And inside Aksa are old people. They are women. If the people have to make an attack, they'll never be able to fight. But for some reason, every now and then we hear they're going to take over the masjid, and suddenly the plans just failed. They can take over an entire country, but one masjid, something doesn't allow them to enter. And when they do enter, something just pushes them out. What is that thing? A divine protection. If ever they had to get the land of Aksa, then you would see the king of the world somebody else. And you will see then Islam being knocked. And divine power not coming. So Allah Ta'ala protected that. The power of deen. Because in this time, when the power of evil was going to be the strongest, the power of Allah had to be the strongest also. There was a time when the Christians took over Aksa. Or before that, we all know the name Constantine. So Constantine, he was a munafiq, a hypocrite. He was no Christian. He was a fire worshipper, a shaitan. And when he understood that the only way to break Christianity is to become a Christian, he did it. Because his shaitan told him, do it. So now suddenly you had a king who was a Christian, and he began changing Christianity. His mother was Helena, or something like that. So she, understanding the power falling on Aksa, and to ensure that that power doesn't break their powers, she made a law in her time. And you can understand what this power is, and why it has to be protected. In her time, but that was before this time that we are going through, it was that time. In her time, she made a law that the first thing, the rock itself, which was used to hold the divine power, must be broken as much as possible. So how much they could break off the rock was broken, and it was moved to another spot. That is why for many years no one knew where the rock is. The rock was moved. Second law she made is that the cloth that women use for their menses, from around the Christian world, must be sent to the land of Aksa. And that would be placed now on the spot where today the rock is. Just because if you put filth there, it will prevent divine power breaking all the magic. So they would put all that dirty blood. When Umar radiallahu anh took over, the first thing he had to do is, where is that spot? And he found it to be a junkyard, covered with filth and dirt, over years and years and years. Now what made her do that? That bring the filthiest thing in the world to put it there so that divine power doesn't break our power. It was because they understood what is falling on that land. Now when magic became on its strongest, Allah Ta'ala ensured that will never happen. So it was mentioned that now that Dajjal is in charge, his armies will never get in. Otherwise the first thing they will try and do if they enter is to make that day a toilet. That people must do everything there. So the divine power doesn't break their power. So that is the land of Aksa. Inshallah, next week we will then speak of the land of Gaza, and thereafter what is in Medina Munawwara. And then if we have a little time, about Iran. So the summary what I mentioned is we are living in magic. To protect us from this magic, Allah Tabarak Ta'ala started His own magic. That is the magic of what we call spirituality. We will not be going for Umrah tomorrow, but do one thing. Your next salah, when you say Allahu Akbar, then feel your heart's contact with the Baytullah. And feel that magic coming straight into you. And then you will understand what I am speaking about, magic. Wa akhiru da'wana.